the prevalent wisdom that is associated with the markets here in the U.S. and really anywhere. That's kind of the thing that I want to get into a little bit, is the idea that really the market always wins. One way or another, the market always wins. This is Digital Drive here on Hot News Talk Radio. I'm your host, Russell. We're talking about, well, technology and quite a bit more. Now, technology is certainly playing a huge factor in this. So it's more a deep discussion into what makes our world, how we're operating today. Yesterday, I talked about the history of radio a little bit, and I'm not saying that to make you feel like you missed out, because it was good, but you can always listen back to it at Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube. So don't feel like you've ever missed out if I refer to something I've done before, because always go back and watch it again if you want to, or not. It's up to you. Now, the thing is, I like to talk about anyway, roots of things, how we got to be who we are, where we are, and when we are, perhaps even. Ooh. By when we are, I'm talking about, of course, the calendar system and how we're dating things and how we're dating other people, which is another topic, but that's not for today's show or any of my shows, I hope. No, that's a topic for another day. No, what we're going to get into, though, is how we got to be where we are in terms of products and in terms of how things became sold to us. And I'm talking about very recent history. Think back to the days, though, before we get into that, of the Soviet Union. Now, back in the days of the Soviet Union, there was a black market for items that were not necessarily readily available for your average Joe in one of the SSRs or the GDRs or what have you. So in the SSR, GDR, of course, is incorrect. In the SSRs, you had basically the state controlling all production and distribution. That's a bit of a problem, of course. We don't really have that so much here. We certainly do when it comes to, say, insurance, but not so much when it comes to basic goods like food or whatever. Although government tends to encroach on every aspect of our lives, but again, we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, in the Soviet Union, you couldn't just buy blue jeans, right? Because again, all these different items of clothing and all these different brands, they didn't really exist. Brands were not really a thing. You had state clothes. You could, of course, have your mother make you clothes, or your very skilled wife or sister or whatever, or maybe your brother if he's so inclined. But there wasn't like Ralph Lauren that you could just buy in one of the Soviet satellites. You couldn't just buy polo. It didn't work that way. Or could you? You see, there was such a thing as a fence, and there was such a thing as the black market. Now, the interesting thing about that in one of the SSRs is that the black market was displaying the real price of things. That's the weird thing. Now, yeah, it's not displaying the real price of things as they are here in the States. Ralph Lauren is still expensive, and so is polo, and so on and so forth. But no, in the SSRs, they were expensive because of risk involved in importation. You could be arrested for importing this stuff. So you're actually seeing the real value of this particular item. And I mean the real value, because the person has to account for profit too. He has to make some money off of that. Even so, he has to make money just in general, because labor is a cost as well. So perhaps he's not even making any real income. He's not actually making a profit because he's paying himself for labor. So he's actually getting paid exactly what he should be because he says so. Now, that might seem a little bit unfair, but so is life, and that's just how the market works. Think about the recent crisis that we've had in Venezuela, where toilet paper, of all things, has been a hot commodity. And you're seeing the real price of toilet paper in Venezuela because there's risk involved in importation. There's all these different factors that have to be factored in the importation of toilet paper. Now, that sounds like a joke. It sounds ridiculous, and maybe it is, but it's still serious. I mean, really, there was a toilet paper crisis in Venezuela, and people were importing toilet paper at great personal risk. And so that cost is displayed. Now, you might be wondering, what does that have to do with us here in the United States? That's the Soviet Union. That's Venezuela. Well, I can tell you, Uber plays into this. You see, Uber, the not taxi service, the ride-hailing sharing service thing for your cell phone, is a reflection of how the free market works in a very interesting way. Now, here we have a very controlled taxi system, especially in New York. So we'll use New York as an example, primo example. New York has the TLC, the Taxi and Limousine Commission. Oh boy. Now, the TLC regulates everything when it comes to taxis and limousines. The taxis have to be a certain size, they have to be a certain car. The yellow cab is standardized. They also have to be a certain amount. There has to be a certain amount of taxi cabs in New York. Now, that sounds a little bit weird that there's actually a commission determining how many taxi cabs there can be in New York City. Shouldn't the market decide that? Well, if you're saying that, then you're probably a free marketer, which is cool. But they aren't really free marketers in New York State or New York City, especially in the higher levels of government. You might certainly see free marketers on the streets. I mean, after all, you're seeing people selling Broadway tickets at a much higher price. And that's free market. They can do that. It's shady, but they can do that. It's not like it's a terrible thing that he does that. Okay, prime example. You can sell loose cigarettes in a true free market system. You could sell loose cigarettes. Now, yeah, I'm making a political statement by saying that, but you could. In a true free market system, there would be no punishment for reselling loose cigarettes. That would simply be capitalism. And that's okay. 25 cents per cigarette. The guy's making a profit, cool, and you get a 25-cent cigarette. Maybe you just want one. You have a quarter in your pocket that you picked up. You want a cigarette. You hand it to him. He hands you a cigarette, and you go on your way. There's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with that. If you appear to be over the age of 18, and chances are you will, and he hands you a cigarette, there's really not a crime being committed there other than, say, some sort of tax violation. But in the terms of true crimes, as in damages, a crime has not been committed there. This person understands probably the risks of smoking. You also understand the risks of, actually there's no risk in you selling him these cigarettes. So there's a mutual understanding and there's no coercion involved until you get choked out by the cops for selling a loose cigarette. But that's a story for another day. That happened about a year ago now. But anyway, that's a true free market system where you can just sell things because you have them and people can buy things because they afford them. And actually in a true free market system, a lot of things would be actually cheaper, which is kind of funny. There's such a thing as market pressure and consumer pressure as well. Although I really don't like the word consumer, which is ironic considering my free market stance. I really don't like the word consumer just because it just seems so barcode. When I think of the word consumer, I think of some edgy teen ranting about the evils of capitalism. You're all consumers, man. That's what I think of. And I don't know. I just like the word customer much better because it's much more personal. And big corporations will use the word consumer when referring to their customers. But if you talk to a small business person, he's very concerned about his customer, or she's very concerned about her customer, whichever way. And that's cool. That's good. That's how it should be. So again, Uber plays into this because Uber drivers care about customers being happy. You can blacklist an Uber driver if you don't want that Uber driver. That's worked into the system. You hail an Uber driver through your Uber app on your smartphone. The driver picks you up and takes you to your destination. You pay what's determined to be a fair rate because they set the rate. They can do that. The drivers can set rates, or actually Uber can set rates. That's how it is. There's extra demand, and so prices go up. That's how it works. There's really nothing wrong with that. And that's a free market system. Now, governments feel threatened by that because that's control being taken away from a state monopoly, i.e. the taxi limousine commissions, which we have in New York City and elsewhere too, I'm sure, but I'm not really intimately familiar with those as I am with the taxi limousine commissions. So it's a threat to state control. Really, that is the definition of socialism, of course, is state control over production and distribution, but we'll get into that some other time. I'm sure we could have a nice long chat with Mr. Sanders about that, but oh well. Now, that's an odd topic too, but again, another day. So that's a real free market system, is people exchanging cash or goods in exchange for other goods. What's really wrong with that? And it's at its base level, that's kind of what it is. You're exchanging goods for other goods. The goods might be gold or silver or greenbacks or whatever, or it might even be commodities. You can trade whatever you want, and there's no coercion. That's the best part. There is no coercion. Now, the reason I brought up the Soviet Union is because despite there being strenuous, violent state control, supposedly over the market, there was still a free market there, despite the constraints on it. Isn't that kind of weird? The free market ebbs and flows and moves around obstacles constantly, always. That's how it works. You can't defeat the free market because it simply always exists. As soon as people start making exchanges despite government, there's a free market. So there's always going to be that. It's just prices aren't always going to be the cheapest they could possibly be because you have to account for risk, labor, all sorts of other different factors. Supply is always a big factor. That's why prices of things will sometimes go up when supply is limited. Same goes for, say, rush hour rates with Uber. And again, you don't have to use Uber. There are other options. You can use Lyft. So it's not like there's some sort of monopoly there. You have options. You have competition. And in a true free market system, again, you would probably have lots of competition because a lot of times, and I would venture to say nearly every time you have a big monopoly, it's actually facilitated by government. Think about AT&T. Think about the days of Standard Oil. Again, facilitated by government because they're paying off people in government. And in America, the United States, I should say, back in the day, Congress wasn't really meant to be there 24/7. It wasn't a regular job. You went there once a year and you left, and you were either a business person or a farmer or just a regular Joe. Communities would vote you in to represent that community. You go there once a year to look at the law, see if things are okay, and you go back home. You were meant to represent the every person. That got changed, of course, as people became more corrupt, which people do. And now we have what we have today. We can fix it, yeah, but we have what we have today, and there's no denying that. Things are the way they are today. And we can't really do anything about that presently. We can change things through free market systems, yeah. But in terms of we're going to go in and overhaul government, that's unrealistic and probably not going to happen. I hate to break it to you, but that's probably not going to happen, realistically anyway. We like to think that it could, but honestly, it probably couldn't. When we're talking about a actual, true, legal fix to things, a real non-military, peaceful way to fix what we have today, it probably couldn't happen, at least not right now. And to be quite frank, things aren't that bad. Yeah, things are pretty terrible, but they're not the worst they could be. Now, that's not to say that we should just be okay with things, but we do have to recognize how well we have things, how blessed we are actually to live where we live and to live in the circumstances we currently live in. Because, yeah, again, things are not perfect. Things are not optimal. But we can still sell things to each other. We can still interact with each other in a reasonably free way. Yeah, we're being oppressed constantly. But despite that, we operate as good human beings. And that's kind of great. I like to think about that a lot when I get sort of down about how things are today. And I think that, well, you know what? I still have really good friends. I still interact with great people on an everyday basis. The people I work with here, they're great. I wouldn't want to work with any other group of people, to be quite honest with you. I come in here and I talk to these people and they're great. They're funny. They're nice. They're amazing to work with. The guys here at Hot News Talk Radio are just they're prime. That's the only way to put it. They're great. I wouldn't want to work with any other group of people. Maybe we'll bring more people on board someday. I don't know. Probably not. But the group of people that we have today right now are excellent. And I think about that a lot. And I think, man, I've got it pretty good. And I'm sure a lot of other people have it pretty good. We just don't like to think about that sometimes. We don't like to think about how good we have things sometimes because we like to think about negatives. We like to think about how bad things are. And we like to think, man, I'm just being so oppressed right now. And maybe you are, but despite that, you've overcome, haven't you? Because you're not letting it affect your life in such a drastic way that you just don't do everyday things. Because again, I can still go to the mall with my friends despite government controls and regulations on the insurance market. I can still do that. And that's kind of cool. That's great. I like the way things are. Things are actually going really well. Now, again, we have services like Uber, which are operating despite governments. Notice the big push to get rid of Uber, or at least to shift Uber away from how it's operating presently, and efforts to define what Uber is. Why? Why do you want to define what Uber is so badly? We had this debate on Hot News Talk Radio, ages ago. David Tulis and I were on at around, I believe it was 5 o'clock actually, before I was news director. I was on at about 5 o'clock with David Tulis, and we were talking about Uber. And this is back when the city council was making decisions about Uber. And we were saying, why does the city council feel the need to say anything at all about Uber? Because Uber's not harming anyone. Maybe there's a business that's being harmed by Uber simply because of competition is being put out of business. But again, compete. If you're so worried about your competitors, compete, be better. That's why in a free market, again, we have better products, better systems, better businesses, where we don't need maybe a better business bureau when we when we have a free market system, because the businesses are being pushed to be better by competition. And with no competition, or maybe state controls on competition, we start to have problems where there's not really any incentive to be better. Again, look at AT&T back in the days of Ma Bell. Not great service and not great coverage and not great anything. And yet it was the only thing you could get, because monopoly. And again, the government helped out with that. There's no doubting that. There were people in government who were very happy that AT&T was spreading the way that it was back in the day. So the free market will operate despite governments, not because of governments. The government is not there to defend a free market. It's really, in our case, there to hinder it. Maybe originally governments were designed to help out free markets, but that really isn't the case today. And we can get into discussions about law and damages and what would truly make a crime. That's possibly something for another day. If you really are interested in free markets, by the way, I would encourage you to listen to David Tulis' show, which is on from 9 to 11 here on Hot News Talk Radio every morning, 9 to 11 here on Hot News Talk Radio. After him, we have the very funny Mr. Judd show from 11 to noon, and I follow up with my pitiful humor at 12 to 1 here on Hot News Talk Radio, which is my show, Digital Drive. And then we have Clutch with Keon Rose from 1 to 2. After him is Laura Ingraham. Sean Hannity, Hot News Live at 5 is on at 5, where I come back again, tell you about the day's events. And we have Cowboy Up with Tex, where he truly talks about the day's events. In fact, today is Texas Weekend Roundup because it's Thursday. He'll tell you about all the different things that are happening around our area on the weekend. So look forward to that here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. Hey, something that's pretty cool is a United States company, made in America, right? That's unveiling the first ever handheld drone neutralizer gun, which is yet again an example of the market filling a hole. There's a hole in the market for people who are afraid of drones. Perhaps people who have a lot of money, who are paranoid maybe about drones coming in and ruining their day, filming their daughter's bedrooms, who knows. So they want to buy this drone neutralizer gun. They wish, man, I wish there was just something I could buy that would get rid of drones once and for all, that I could just shoot down a drone with. Well, now you have it, the drone neutralizer gun. U.S. SciTech contractor Battelle has developed a new revolutionary gun, according to RT, that can target and stop UAVs dead at a range of actually 400 meters using radio signals. It expects to make it available to the U.S. government agencies next year. Now, something that's interesting to note, again, about government contracts is that that's an artificial market, but the free market does play in. There are people who will make money off of government. That is a fact. That's how we have things today. And there are huge companies that benefit and, in fact, are solely existing because of this artificial economy that's being created by government. But again, that's actually free market playing in, because people are making cash off of a source of cash. That's free market. There's a market for military contracts. So the contractors come in. There's not really anything not free market about that specifically. It's simply that the provider of the cash is getting it from perhaps immoral means, but there's a hole in the market. It's going to be filled no matter what, even if government creates that hole, or is that hole that you shovel cash into, which we're doing with our income every day. Or maybe it's not even income. That's a question that needs to be asked some other time. Well, Drone Defender can help protect us from those who may wish to do us harm. It can help us in numerous settings, from the White House lawn to bases and embassies overseas, from prisons and schools into historic sites. It easily and reliably neutralizes the threat. That's what Dan Stam is boasting. He led the research project for the Ohio headquartered nonprofit company. Now, why wouldn't you want to make a profit, dude? Come on. Makers say that the model, which looks like a gun with an antenna instead of a barrel, weighs less than 5 kilograms. It can be switched on in less than 1/10 of a second and can operate for 5 hours straight without a recharge. Not bad, right? That's because it's just emitting a RF signal, by the way. Interesting to note, though, is that it looks like, I don't know if it's a prototype or not, but it seriously does look like just 2 antennas that are mounted onto an AR-15 stock, which is kind of, I mean, that's fine, but it's kind of funny. It has a AR-15, look like polymer barrel shroud with Picatinny rails, and it's got this antennas that are mounted on top of it and everything. It's just funny to look at, because it's just, I don't know. There's just something funny about that. That's just standard mil-spec parts that these antennas are mounted on. But again, hole in the market, filled by the market. There you go. That's a free market system. So that's a brief rundown of how the markets work. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio here on hotnewstalkradio.com as well. So be sure to check us out on the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube as well. Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube. You can watch us on the Hot News Cam right here. Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com. Check us out on Twitter too.
This is a modern world. This is the modern world. What kind of fool do you think I am? Just think I know nothing of my...
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
It's Rick Davis Golden Diamonds half-off remounting party going on right now. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds half-off remounting party is an affordable way to revitalize your jewelry. Don't miss the party going on today at Rick Davis half-off remounting party. Give your diamond ring a fresh new look or a new design, as Rick's Golden Diamonds will fix it quickly, or maybe even while you wait. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, 40 years of service, 5301 Brainerd Road, 5301 Brainerd Road. Call 580-2587, 580-2587 for Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, an affordable way to revitalize your jewelry. The half-off party's going on today, so don't miss it at Rick Davis Golden Diamonds. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road. Call 580-2587. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services. The sky is our limit.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Soddy Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Soddy Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Soddy Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Soddy, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Hi, I'm David Tulis, inviting you to make the move with me 9 to 11 a.m. weekdays here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. The David Tulis Show, featuring Nooganomics.com for Chattanooga.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Lillian Wu. The Commander-in-Chief announces
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Somebody brought cookies in here yesterday. Actually, I'll tell you who. Keon Rose brought cookies in here yesterday. And I think I've eaten about, like 6 or 7, I think. I don't know, probably about half of however many were brought in. I'm going to die probably by about the half of this segment. I'll probably be dead. So if you hear a loud kerplunk, that's me plopping on the ground because of sugar poisoning. Is that a thing? I don't know. I'll die anyway. I mean, that's my outlook on life is I'm going to die anyway. So why not? Maybe it's not the best outlook to have, but it works for me for now. Something that I tend to believe ideologically, in my ideology, I tend to believe that music should be free. Now, there's caveats to that, but I tend to think that the general intent of a artist creating something, anything, is for people to see. Think about this. You have a graffiti artist, and I do consider them artists, who will create massive works of art. Lots of effort goes into, sometimes in spaces that are hard to see. Underpasses, railroad underpasses, where I've actually explored some of those and seen some just amazing art that nobody's going to see. And they're not charging you to go look at it. You go there and you see it, and they don't pop out of the bush and say, hey, $5 to look at that, and $5 if you share it. That doesn't really happen. The music industry, oddly enough, tends to operate on that principle, though, where some guy will say, you need to pay to listen to that, and you need to pay to share that, and you need to pay a special royalty to listen to it with your friends, and if you're going to use it in any sort of your work, you have to pay us, and if you're going to use it, if you're sharing it with a friend, you have to pay for it, and if you're going to copy it to another device, you need to pay for another license for that device. You're basically listening to music on license, and something tells me that that's not the original intent of a lot of the artists anyway. Metallica would be a prime exception to that rule, where Metallica tends to be very stingy about who can listen to Metallica's music, which is fine with me because I'm not really a fan anyway, but I never really got into Metallica. I don't know why. You'd think that I could, but I couldn't. Heavy metal's not my thing usually. I can listen to anything. But not anything, but I can listen to a lot of things. And Metallica, for some reason, is an exception to that rule, where I just it seems so faux macho, look how cool I am, ride a Harley with no helmet sort of thing, with the t-shirt and jeans. And I just can't get into that, man. It's not my thing. It's not really marketed at me anyway. Metallica is probably not marketed at skinny white guys who used to play Zelda as a kid. I somehow think that's not the market they're going after. So anyway, music tends to be created for the purpose of performance, for the purpose of sharing, even for the purpose of you hearing it, right? If I created a song, let's say the theoretical situation where I become talented enough to write music, and I make a song and I put it on YouTube, people are going to watch it. And let's say people repost it. I'm not going to be offended that people repost it. That just means people want to listen to it, right? And if people want to download the audio of the YouTube video, they can do that too. If they want to pay me, they can do that too. I'm not stingy about that sort of thing, which is kind of funny for someone who's such a free marketer like I am. Maybe I'm just really laid back when it comes to these sorts of things, but I think being involved in the radio industry has really opened my eyes to how just ridiculous the music industry can be. Especially when we think about the early days of radio, when pioneers for the radio business, Frank Conrad as an example, he started out playing his own phonograph collection over the air. You couldn't do that today. I couldn't bring in my vinyl of Dr. Dre's The Chronic, which I seriously do own on record, by the way, brand new. I'm such a hipster. No, I couldn't bring in Dr. Dre's The Chronic on vinyl and play it for you over the air. Number one, because I would get a lot of trouble with the FCC, because I'm pretty sure that there's about 300 or something F-bombs in just the first 2 songs. So couldn't really get away with that. But most importantly is licensing. I don't have license from Dr. Dre's special legal team to play Dr. Dre's The Chronic on the air for you. Even smaller indie labels, Elephant Six Recording Company, prime example. Great recording company, by the way. Lots of great music coming out of there. The Apples in Stereo is a great band. In the Airplane Over the Sea is a great album by Neutral Milk Hotel, which is also a really, really good band. If you're into like indie music, you probably already know about those bands anyway. But no, I couldn't just bring in my album of In the Airplane Over the Sea, which I do own on vinyl for some reason, and play it out over the air. I couldn't just do that because somebody probably anyway would hear that and go, ooh, it's not licensed to do that. Call CSAC. And then I get in a bunch of trouble for not playing it with license or for playing it without license. So all these different things would come up and just get in the way of things. And that's a problem for sharing music. Now, we have an underground of people who share music MP3 files with each other. But again, that's not strictly speaking up to code. I won't say it's illegal because I don't think that it is. And I don't think that anyone thinks it's illegal. They'll label it as such, but it's probably not. But still, there are music sharing communities where people share music with each other. And it's not strictly speaking licensed, right? Well, there's a new community, a new service that's a little bit under the table. It's kind of like Popcorn Time for, music. Popcorn Time, by the way, was a free service that let you watch movies streamed via the BitTorrent system. It's a hard to talk about topic, but anyway, now there's a situation or a service like that is that for music. It's called Auroras.me. And now the Recording Industry Association of America, of course, is suing this new company. Auroras is a Popcorn Time-like player that allows pirates to stream from an overseas library of pirated music. Cool. Popcorn Time, on the other hand, performs a similar service for movie pirates, and its users are in the crosshairs of the MPAA, the Motion Picture Association of America, which, by the way, it's kind of a funny difference between Americans and Europeans, or even Canadians, where we call movies movies and they call them films, which is actually a funny cultural difference because in the U.S. we used to call them moving pictures or the talkies, right? And for the talking moving pictures, but it used to be the moving pictures or just the pictures. And then we started calling them movies for short. And we sort of kept doing that. But in Europe, they always just called them films because they were on strips of film. And for some reason, that stuck, and us calling them movies stuck. Although you will notice sort of a split where in the earlier days, we used to call them pictures. Like, I'm going to go see a picture that is this or that. And it's sort of a weird cultural dissonance. But anyway, so this new streaming service, I don't know how I got onto that. This new streaming service is, of course, being sued by the RIAA. Defendant's business is new, but its business plan is old, kind of like Napster from the old days. Illegally profiting from privacy by free riding on the creative efforts and investments of others, the RIAA said. Plaintiffs are entitled to a temporary restraining order and preliminary and permanent injunctive relief to stop defendant's flagrant violation of the plaintiff's rights. Plaintiffs are further entitled to damages as detailed below. We don't need to read what the damages are. The suit names Andrew Sampson, whom the RIAA, according to Ars Technica, describes as living in Florida and being the president of so-called Auroras Group Incorporated. Users of the site are not directed into the BitTorrent network and instead are directed to a single known pirate site based in Russia called Pleer, P-L-E-E-R, Pleer. According to the suit, users have the option to retrieve files from other known pirate sites and to make copies of them, the RIAA said. Once users downloaded the free Aurora software from the website, auroras.me, they are instantly able to use Auroras' search functionality to find wide selections of unauthorized copies of plaintiff's copyrighted sound recordings. Yes, young Skywalker, download those recordings. For example, searches on Auroras enable users to easily download top hits from major labels such as Katy Perry. Why? Lady Antebellum. Why? Neon Trees. Who? Brandon Flowers. That guy. Neil Young. Okay. Collective Soul. Oldies. Alicia Keys. All right. New York. And Miley Cyrus. Why? According to the suit. Auroras is taking the lawsuit in stride, actually saying, we plan to fight the RIAA and win, the site said on Twitter. Another tweet said, hey, RIAA, UMG, and everyone else, we challenge every CEO to an arm wrestling competition. We win, you drop your empty suit. Something tells me that's not going to win. UMG, by the way, is Universal Music Group, which is a huge music company and label. Huge label. I won't say much more lest I get sued. The RIAA said the suit said that the site was profiting from piracy, which Auroras is actually disputing, saying, for anyone curious, the RIAA principal complaint is that we're profiting. Anyone see any ads? We sure don't. Oh, under U.S. copyright law, the site faces a maximum fine of $150,000 in penalties per violation. That's per violation, which they might see as every MP3 streamed. Yeah, $150,000 for every MP3 streamed. That could be a problem. What's 150,000 times a few thousand? Quite a lot. Yeah, let's say that you have simply an album of 9 songs. That's still a lot. And an album of 9 songs is actually a pretty big album. But think about this. Okay, Google. Okay, Google. Okay, Google. What's 150,000 times 9? And we'll wait about 4 years for the results to come up. Here we go. Hello, Google. Come on. My phone locked up. Don't you hate it when that happens? It's always at inopportune times. Google has actually crashed on me, which is not something that usually happens. But anyway, you get the idea. 150,000 times 9, just assuming theoretically that that album is 9 songs long, is a heck of a lot of money. Okay, here we go. Okay, Google. Jeez, man, what's wrong with that? I don't know, man. Sometimes my phone just doesn't want to work. Google Now just had an update, and it's just like really bad. I don't know why. What's 150,000 times 9?
The answer is 1,350,000.
And that's for one theoretical album. 1,350,000 for one album. That's a lot of money, and I kind of doubt that even Google could afford to pay for all that. So is this a tyrannical monopoly, perhaps, that's being enforced by government copyright thugs? Maybe, actually. That could very well be. The recording industry is a little bit tyrannical when it comes to rights and when it comes to streaming and when it comes to sharing and all sorts of other things. Think about it this way. Music, even in my childhood, music was shared with stuff we called mixtapes and later on mix CDs. That's how the kids did it back in the day. Nowadays we share Spotify playlists, but Spotify doesn't have the Ecstasy of St. Teresa's Pigment EP on it, so I can't really share that with you on Spotify. In fact, I don't actually know of any physical copies that can be had very easily, except for if you buy the 3D soundtrack compilation CD that came out, which is kind of expensive, actually. But anyway, you get the idea. This is a very expensive album to own, especially if you buy the Czechoslovakian pressing of it. And it's a great EP. It's a really good EP. I'm serious. Ecstasy of St. Teresa, Pigment. Look it up. It's on YouTube. It's amazing. I'm serious. It's like some of the best music I've ever heard. But good luck finding it legally, right? I mean, yeah, you can listen to it streamed on YouTube, and I don't think I'll get shot at for saying that. You can get it streamed on YouTube, but how can I share that with other people in sort of a compilation of music? Really, you can't, unless you share a YouTube playlist. But then again, you're assuming that this music is on YouTube, and not every track from every album on the planet is on YouTube. A lot of time, actually, because of copyright takedown. That seems to be kind of a problem, though, in our free society of sharing. Because I thought sharing was caring. That's what all the torrent sites tell me. So why can't I share music with you? Well, because of license or copyright or something. It gets to be really ridiculous. It gets to the point where it's almost like tyrannical. It's almost like you have a private industry that has government as an enforcement wing with the DMCA. And it's almost like government is facilitating economic controls. Now, that's an odd concept, I know, but it could be. I don't know. It could be. Who knows? Kind of weird stuff. Government enforcing economic controls at the behest of some cartel of the music industry. Could it be? Well, I don't want to get shot at or my brake lines cut, so we'll not delve into that topic anymore. I'll just posit that little bit of questionnaire and we'll move on. But really, though, if I want to share with you a mix CD, I can't. Not legally, anyway. Not according to the DMCA, or sorry, the RIAA. But again, back in the day, that's what everyone did. All the cool kids shared mix CDs. And that's just what we did. mixed tapes even in the 80s and 90s. I knew people, and I did share tapes of music with each other, with kids my age at church and school, and not so much school, but co-ops and stuff. That's what we did. We shared tapes. So that would be a huge crime according to the RIAA. We'd get arrested and thrown in prison and all these sorts of things. Maybe the dead Kennedys are right by putting a blank side on one of their tapes and encouraging people to copy them. I don't know. As much as I dislike some of the political discourse that the dead Kennedys pushed out, they were a pretty envelope-pushing band. But anyway, enough about that. I could talk about music all day. I've actually thought about it would be fun to do a whole show dedicated to music. Maybe Keon Rose, our resident culture expert, could come in and talk about music with me at some point, and we could share albums with each other. That would be a good show. We should do that some Saturday. No, not Saturday. We should do that some Friday or something, where we come in and we just talk about music and play different songs and stuff. Oh, wait, no, we couldn't play songs because we'd get in trouble, wouldn't we? So much for that idea. Man, don't you hate it when that happens? Well, fallout from safe harbor regulations could be hurting, kind of everyone. In the wake of last week's dramatic judgment by the Court of Justice in the European Union, which means that the transatlantic data transfers made under the safe harbor agreement are likely to be ruled illegal across the European Union, there's been no shortage of apocalyptic visions claiming that e-commerce and even the internet itself are doomed. Companies are already facing alternative, if imperfect, ways to transfer personal data from Europe to the U.S., although a very recent data protection ruling in Germany suggests that one approach, using contracts, is unlikely to withstand legal scrutiny. But what's being overlooked are the much wider implications of the court's ruling, which reach far beyond e-commerce. The careful legal reasoning used by the Court of Justice in the European Union to reach its decisions will make its rulings extremely hard, if not impossible, to circumvent, since they are based on the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. As the European Commission's page on the Charter explains, the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU brings together in a single document the fundamental rights protected in the European Union. Once merely aspirational, the Charter attained a new importance in December of 2009 with the entry into the force of the Treaty of Lisbon. The Charter became legally binding on the European Union institutions and on national governments, just like the EU treaties themselves. The interesting thing that pops up, though, is that there are rights which are recognized in, say, Germany, which are not recognized in the U.S., or at least not officially recognized in the U.S. Like, example, rights to privacy, which you may have in some countries in the European Union, the U.S. does not recognize. And there's actually been a rather large debate about the difference between privacy laws in Europe. I keep wanting to say the Europe. I don't know why. In Europe and in the U.S., where in the U.S., some authorities will claim, I put authorities in finger quotes, some authorities will claim that you've no right to your data. And if you're sending it across, say, public transmission lines, you've no right to them, which causes kind of a problem in, say, Europe. It causes some problems in Europe, where the law there is that your information is yours. And if you transmit it to the U.S., suddenly it's not yours anymore. And that seems a little bit, contradictory, perhaps? I don't know. It seems a little bit odd, to say the least. And there's a big split in opinion between the U.S. and Europe. And it makes you wonder which trumps which. Because if we're talking about, say, international transmission, who has jurisdiction? Maybe nobody should have jurisdiction. Maybe that would be the better way, is to simply just stop spying on the internet. Maybe just stop doing that. That might be the better way to do things. Maybe some of this surveillance is actually kind of illegal. Oh, that's a bit of an odd idea. Perhaps it's actually kind of, illegal to be spying on people without warrant. Now, that's a bizarre idea, I know, and that's one that perhaps is pushing the envelope. But maybe that's just how it is. I don't know. It seems like an odd concept that you should own your own data, but I don't know. It's getting to be a little bit weird now, the way things are, where you have the U.S., which is saying that we have the right to spy on you even if you're in Europe. And you have Europe saying you shouldn't be spying on us because we're in Europe. And you have the U.S. saying, well, we have a right to spy on you because national security. And people are wondering, who's right here? Who has the rights? It seems like the individuals should have rights, but I don't know. things are getting to be very strange in Europe and in the US when it comes to privacy. It seems like a lot of different European countries are getting kind of fed up with our totalitarian approach to data protection, which is there is no data protection. Think about this. James Comey is the head of the FBI. I'm not a fan. I'll just throw that out there. James Comey is the head of the FBI, and he is begging, he's pleading with Apple to share data with the FBI, saying that Google, or rather Apple, I should say, needs to be the responsible corporate citizen that it always has been and start sharing data with the FBI. And Google's, or rather Apple, I keep wanting to say Google, Apple's basically telling them to go take a hike, which is actually really funny when you think about it, because Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, is a rather liberal sort of guy. And I don't hold that against him or anything, but he's a rather liberal sort of guy. And I'll be quite frank with you, the liberal stereotype is that they really like government in a lot of ways. And that's not the case with Tim Cook, at least by all appearances. And I think that's kind of funny, actually, that Tim Cook is basically telling the FBI to take a hike. And I don't know what his intentions are with that. I don't know why he's doing it, what his motive is, but straight line crooked stick, maybe? I don't know. Tim Cook seems like kind of a cool guy sometimes, but I disagree with him on a lot of different points. I'll say that. But I don't hold these things against him. I don't hold these things against him, really. Sorry, I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks, and one of the audiobook narrators is a British guy, and he always says against. And I have this odd habit of imitating other people, like subconsciously. I don't know why I do it, but I catch myself using different phrases and terms that other people use in other cultures. And I don't know why I do it. I wish I didn't, but I do. And it drives me kind of crazy sometimes. Well, Toyota is sort of subtly smacking at VW, saying Toyota is going to be cutting CO2 from its new cars by 90% by 2050. Oh well, gotta wait, 45 years. Earlier today, Toyota unveiled a new bold plan for the company's sustainability efforts. By the year 2050, it plans to have CO2 emissions cut from its new cars by 90% compared to 2010. Toyota also wants to completely eliminate CO2 pollution from new car manufacturing, as well as over the entire life cycle of a car, including its recycling. Odd concept. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but Toyota does. The company says it's going to be building off of the success of the Prius hybrids. I didn't know they were that successful to cut vehicle emissions. Advanced hybrid powertrains will be a big research focus, and the company even gave a shout out to silicon carbide supercapacitors. In addition, big things are being planned for hydrogen. The Japanese government has been incentivizing its car industry to work with fuel cells, and road cars are starting to appear. The Toyota Mirai, I believe, is already in production and coming to the U.S., even if the fueling stations will depend upon our few and far between. It's more of a, again, envelope push, to use that phrase, than anything. Simply because it's just not really feasible right now to have a vehicle like that on our roads. But the idea is still there. It's sort of incentivizing different markets to put hydrogen electrolyzing stations around so that we can have hydrogen coming out of water to fuel our cars. It's a cool idea. The problem, though, with that is that it's not really 100% efficient, because it's not really 100% green either, because you need electricity to split hydrogen from water. Water is oxygen and hydrogen, so you need electricity to do that. So how do you collect that? You could use solar panels. Problem is, right now, solar power is not so great when it comes to that sort of thing. You need quite a bit of voltage to split hydrogen and oxygen atoms in a efficient, or really a high output sort of way. That's what I'm trying to say. So probably it'd be getting its power from a coal plant or hydroelectric plant or nuclear power plant somewhere. Not really 100% green, but the effort's there. This is Digital Drive here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240. Clutch of Keon Rose is coming up next. Pardon my mangled tongue here on Hot News Talk Radio AM 1240 and hotnewstalkradio.com.
This is a mob world. This is a mob world. What kind of fool do you think I am? You think I know nothing about
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Lots of sunshine and great-looking weather continues out there through the afternoon. Highs near 77 tonight. Fair. A few late clouds, lows into the lower 50s. For Friday, though, more sunshine, becoming breezy, highs lower 70s, with more sunshine and cool weather for the weekend. Check out Glass Farm Nursery now with a new shipment of pansies and violas, still only $12.99 a flat, as well as large mums only $17.99 at Glass Farm Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
The Fed raising rates, China's economy in trouble. Don't let headlines derail your long-term financial strategy. I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. At Edward Jones, we provide the tools for a reasoned, disciplined approach to investing. Stop by my office next to the Target Shopping Center in Hickson, or call me at 423-870-7894. That's Patrick Neal at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
We do the best quality work. We have the best customer service, the most competitive prices around.
Cell Surgeon, a painless operation to fix your sick device.
Well, if you have a cheap charger or something